Hey everyone, I'm Grandmaster Ben Finegold here with our weekly lecture series. Tonight's lecture is titled Online versus OTB Chess. OTB stands for over the board, but playing in person. I'm not sure how long this lecture is going to be. It's going to be hard to talk for 45 minutes about the differences, but I'll give it a shot. Although when I made a lot of videos for chess.com, they were always telling me to make them shorter because people on the internet don't like long videos. But these weekly lectures seem to do okay. So anyway, this might be shorter than usual, but hopefully it'll be chock full of information. I want to thank our sponsor, Michael H. And before I start, my tardive dyskinesia is acting up today. So I have more facial tics than usual. So I brought some water with me. Just have a drinking problem. Water spilled all over me. And so forth. So don't make fun of me too much. Okay, so for one reason, I'm a very good person to give this lecture, and for another reason, I'm not. The reason I'm not a good person to give this lecture is I did the opposite. This lecture, and in fact, I'm going to quote the sponsor, Michael H. I was wondering if Ben could talk about moving from online to in-person OTB chess. Okay, and I did the opposite because I'm old. So I played in-person chess because online chess didn't exist when I was a kid. And then when I got in my 20s, then online chess started to exist. And I had to learn how to play online after playing on a real board. So I have the opposite problem that 99% of people have, which is they play exclusively online, and at some point they play over the board. And the reason I'm a good person to ask for this question, I'm not all bad, is because Karen and I used to own a chess club here in Atlanta, and this was very common. People would come to our tournaments, or they would come to our weekly free play where people just play for fun. And those people had the same issues. They were online people, and they were like, hey, I'm going to come to the chess club and see what that's like. And they would often ask me what the differences were, and we talked about it. So I have some experience in this field with people who played online and then had to play over the board. Okay, so before I talk about what I'm going to talk about, I want to answer the sponsor's questions because he's the sponsor. And he wrote a lot of questions. So I'll answer each question, and then I'll go into my own craziness. Okay, first question. Can you research or prep for your opponents ahead of time for an in-person event? And the answer is maybe. And that depends on the strength of the players and the time control and when the pairings are up. And I compare tournament chess and online chess, and by tournament I mean over the board, to poker. If you play poker, then you know there's cash games and there's tournaments. Okay, poker tournaments are like chess tournaments. You pay an entry fee, and then you play poker, or you pay an entry fee, then you play chess, and you do what they tell you. You go to that table, you go to that seat. Doesn't matter if it's chess or poker. And in chess, when your game is done, there's another round eventually, and they tell you to go to another seat at another time. And this happens in poker too. Sometimes they tell you to get up and go to another seat. You move tables. Cash games in poker are like playing online chess. When you play a cash game at poker, you can play at different stakes. You can say, I want to play PLO, or I want to play normal Hold'em, or some other game. You know, hard to play Raz when you go to a regular casino. And you can play in different cash games, and you can play when you want and leave when you want. You're not tied down. And it's just, and actually this is why I like cash games more than tournaments in poker. I play cash games, Karen plays in tournaments. And in chess, when you play on the internet, you can play whenever you want. And so, also on the internet, you can choose the time control. Also on the internet, you can play as long or as short as you want to. So it's like a cash game in poker. Just leave whenever you want. Now, prepping for your opponent is very common at the top level tournaments, especially round robins. And if you're a person who's basically requesting this lecture or watching this lecture, you're probably not a professional chess player. If you're a professional chess player, you're probably not watching a lot of my lectures. If you're a beginner and you play online and you're like, hey, I want to play over the board and see what that's like. My friends told me it's fun. Then you're watching this lecture. So that means you're not a grandmaster and you're not playing other grandmasters. So it's harder to prep. If you're a grandmaster and you're playing in a round robin, like Tata Steel, for example, then you know who you're playing beforehand and what color you'll have. And you have databases of your opponent's games, and you can see what openings they play, and you have a coach, and you can prepare for the game. If you're playing online, you know, the game pops up and you play somebody who has a fake name. So you can't be like, oh, I'm playing this guy, he plays such and such opening. My dogs are barking, they don't like that. Okay, so if you're rated, let's say, I don't know, 1,300, and you're playing in an over-the-board tournament, and your opponent's 1,300, and you're playing in a Swiss tournament where they pair you up, you're not going to have a lot of time to prepare for the game because usually the pairings are going up, and then in a few minutes you play. And also, if you could prepare, you're not going to find a lot of your opponent's games online because your opponent's 1,300. And you don't know their online screen name usually. So even if you did, so you can't really prepare the way a grandmaster would for another grandmaster. Sorry, my dogs are barking a lot. I should have locked them up. They wait until I give a lecture before they start barking. Anyway, they'll stop soon. They'll get tired of barking. But they'll be loud before that. And the dogs barking actually helps my lecture because it's one of the things I wanted to talk about. If you're playing over the board, some people are noisy. They're tapping their pen. They're sneezing on you. They're coughing on you. Occasionally, you hear a dog barking outside. And sometimes people don't smell very good. Sometimes it's too hot in the tournament room. Sometimes it's too cold in the tournament room. So when you're playing at home, you control the environment. If I'm playing online now, I can go lock my dogs up so they don't go into the front room and bark at like a car passing by. And I can turn the temperature any way I want it. I can turn the lights on or off. I can play at 3 a.m. or 3 p.m. But if you're playing in a tournament over the board, You got to do what they tell you. And if people smell or people are noisy or your opponent's annoying you for some reason, or somebody else's, kids are running up and down the aisle. Okay, there's an ambulance in the background outside driving by. You know, it doesn't happen online very much that you have these distractions. But I went off on a tangent there because the dogs were barking. You notice they stopped. So if you're a grandmaster playing another grandmaster, it's likely you will prepare for the game, especially in a round robin, but also in a strong Swiss. If the pairings are up way before the round, you have time to prepare. If you're playing in a local yokel event, which is what most of you are doing who are watching this, you know, you play and you don't know what opening they play. Unless you play the same tournaments over and over again in your local area and you play the same people, then you can prepare before the tournament and say, in my last 12 tournaments, I played this one guy 7 times and he played the French against me 5 times, so I'm going to prepare against his French in case I get paired with him again. You can do that. And online, can't really do that. Okay. Do certain strategies work better over the board? I never really thought of that question before. Good question. Playing differently over the board and playing differently online. I think the main difference is when somebody tells me I play online and I want to play over the board, so hook me up. Like what do I have to know? I think the difference is when somebody says that to me, I'm thinking online chess is blitz and bullet, which it's not for everybody, but it is for most people. And over the board chess is slow chess, which it's not necessarily. You could play in an over the board blitz tournament. But 90% of the time, if somebody only plays online, they're playing blitz and bullet. If they're playing over the board in a tournament, it's a slow tournament. So of course, you can experiment more online because, well, you might not think this way, but I do. I don't care as much about my online rating or results. Maybe you do. Maybe you care more about your online rating and results. Okay, you're not me. But a grandmaster cares about their over-the-board slow chess rating and their results more than their online playing for fun. You could argue, and I would argue, and you could argue with me. You can go to the YouTube comments and be like, no, that's crazy. I don't agree with that. That online chess is more fun and over the board chess is real chess, serious. And a lot of that is because it's slower. But a lot of it is because over the board chess is one-on-one. And when you're playing online, there's several differences than playing over the board, which is what this lecture is about. You're using a mouse, and some people are better with the mouse than other people. So if you play over the board, you're the same strength as somebody, but if you play them online, blitz or bullet, they're way better with the mouse than you, or you're way better than them. And so your rating's a lot higher than theirs, even though you're the same chess strength, because mouse skill, excuse me, isn't necessarily related to chess strength. Although it is a little bit. Other thing is, occasionally people play when they're intoxicated or using illegal substances or they're exhausted. Online, if you play in a real tournament over the board, that's very unusual and unlikely. And another thing is, there's a lot more tilt online than over the board. Because over the board, when you're playing in a tournament, the tournament has a certain number of rounds, usually between 3 and 6. If you go to your local yokel event, it's usually between 3 and 6 rounds. Sometimes it's more, but that's unusual. If you play online, you could tilt. You could be losing and getting madder, and you're playing blitz, and you're playing a lot of games, and you don't want to stop because you just lost 3 in a row, then you lose 4 in a row, and so forth. And you lose 100 rating points, and you're mad. So you can tilt online easily. If you play in a tournament that has only 3 to 6 games, and they're slow games, and they're spaced out, you can't play a tournament game, and then when it's done, you immediately play your next tournament game. You have to wait till the next round. So you have time to cool off. So if you're the kind of person who tilts online, which you are, and you lose a lot of games in a row, or you start playing worse, you're playing for hours, you're tired and you're mad, so forth. That doesn't happen as much in slow chess. Because in like the super GM tournaments, they play 1 game a day and they take a break sometimes. So you can't really, tilt, lose 5, 6 games in a row. If you lose 5, 6 games in a row in a slow tournament where everybody's a grandmaster, usually that's because you're not one of the better players. It's not because you're on tilt. It's because, other players are better than you. Truth hurts. Okay. Now I want to talk about stuff I want to talk about, because I think I answered Michael H's questions about online versus over the board. One of the things that surprised me, and if Karen and I didn't own a chess club, I would never think of this because people told me. They said one of the most difficult things to do when you play online all the time and you make the jump to over the board chess is understanding like what the pieces are and where they are. Because when you play online, you have the graphics of the pieces that you like. There's different pieces you can use on any site, LeeChess or chess.com or other sites. And you see the same pieces over and over and over again, and it's 2D. The 3D pieces freak some people out. Of course, I have the opposite problem because I'm old, so I'm used to playing on a board when I was a kid, and then when I became an adult, I would play on the board or I would play online, and online looks different than the board. Online's 2D, and it's flat, and it's a screen in front of you, and it's not a chess set in front of you. So for people who are making the jump online to OTB, they have problems with the pieces sometimes. They're not sure which is the king or the queen, and it just looks different. It feels different. And I understand that. You have to play a lot over the board so that you're used to it. You'll get used to it. You can't just play in one OTB tournament, you have a bad time, then you decide you're just going to play online. I mean, it's your first tournament. One of the big differences now with online versus over the board chess, which didn't exist when I was a kid, is new players. So over the board, and there's a guy who's unrated. He's playing in his first tournament. Okay, when I was a kid, if somebody was playing in their first tournament, they were very bad at chess because they'd never played in a tournament. So they play their mom or their dad or their friend, and maybe they saw a chess book once. Maybe their friend goes to the chess club, so they went with them, and they play their first tournament. They're very bad. All their moves are terrible, and occasionally they make an illegal move, and so forth. Nowadays, the opposite is true. People playing chess online for 7 years and have chess.com ratings of 2,000, then they play in their first tournament unrated. And then they're getting, 1,800 ratings. So when I was a kid, that was impossible. Now you can play thousands of games of chess on the internet against reasonable players, and you can watch chess videos and do chessable courses, and you can get good at chess without playing over the board. And that wasn't the case when I was a kid. You want to play anybody good, you got to play over the board. You can't go watch a YouTube video. There was no YouTube. There was no Chessable. There was no chess.com. You couldn't have a lesson with a grandmaster over the internet, which a lot of people do, thanks to my students. If you wanted chess lessons, you had to find somebody local who gave chess lessons and go to their house, or they come to your house, and it's hard to find them. Now with the internet, you can find anybody in 5 seconds. So when I was a kid, if you were playing in your first tournament, you were very bad at chess. Nowadays, that's not the case. You could play in your first tournament, and you're already 1,800 strength. It could happen. And it does happen. I saw it a lot at the chess club. Unrated players telling me they're, high rated on the internet. Okay. One difference online versus over the board is, and I mentioned this earlier, is you're told when to play when you're playing over the board, and you're told what color you have, and online you can do whatever you want. And you can take breaks, or you can play 1,000,000 games in a row. So it's more fun. If you want to improve your over the board game, but you don't have over the board local tournaments in your area, so you play infrequently, but you still want to improve. Well, if you're playing bullet chess on the internet for 3 months, and then finally in your area, an OTB tournament shows up, with slow time control, that 1 minute chess, that didn't help you play slow chess over the board. So if you want to improve your slow chess, you have to play slow on the internet. You got to play some 45-minute chess, 1 hour, maybe one move a day, and think about your moves a long time, and make it look like a tournament setting where you're playing slow. And maybe you just play 1 game instead of 20 blitz games or bullet games. Yeah. Okay. So I want to show, I'm going to have 3 different, in the description of the video, it's going to have 3 different positions. Right now we have 0 positions. I've been talking nonstop. Now we're going to talk about 3 different issues, and I'm going to show them on the board. What's funny is I'm doing this online, so I have to explain the over the board part of the lecture. I can't show you because it's over the board and we're online. I can show you online what I'm talking about. Over the board, I got to tell you, and you got to believe me. You got to pretend. I can't show you what I want to show you over the board because it won't let me. That's why over the board chess and online chess are different. Okay, so I'm going to play silly because I'm showing you something. So don't be like, you're playing silly. I'm playing silly on purpose. Oops, not F6. Never play F6. Okay. Okay. If you're playing online or you're playing over the board, part of the lecture is going to be called illegal moves. Okay. Now, I didn't talk about this before because I wanted to save it to show you. So now we're going to talk about it. Okay. If you're not a great chess player, maybe you're 300 strength or 400 strength, and most people beat you. Okay. That means occasionally, if you play over the board, you're going to make illegal moves. Maybe once a game, maybe once a tournament, maybe once a month, maybe once every 3 months. You make an illegal move. Now, this is a big difference between online chess and over-the-board chess. If you make an illegal move online, the computer won't let you. So I can't even show you what I want to show you because I'm going to make an illegal move. The computer won't let me make an illegal move. If you're playing on chess.com or Elite Chess and you make an illegal move, it makes like a buzzing sound and takes your move back. Here I'm using ChessBase. Queen b4 check, illegal. I can't even show you queen b4 check because the computer is going to put the queen back on b6. Okay, you have to pretend that black played queen b4 check. Now, there's 3 things that can happen. The first thing is white forgot that black was in check. And after queen b4 check, white reacts and plays bishop d2. Now, online, none of this can happen. It's never happened to you before that one side made an illegal move and the other side, did something about it, bishop d2. Okay, so queen b4 check, bishop d2. If you're playing in a tournament in real life, OTB, that can happen. Okay, and if neither player notices, the U.S. Chess Federation, although you might live in another country, FIDE, for some of you, they have rules about what to do when somebody notices, hey, my king's been in check for 5 moves. Okay, and that can happen. Probably you're not a grandmaster, but it could happen. Happen to a grandmaster too. Okay. Now, there's a caveat. If you're playing blitz or bullet chess over the board, and I think the person who's sponsoring the lecture, and I think most of you who are trying to play OTB chess and only played online before, you're not talking about blitz and bullet, you're talking about slow chess, I think. If you're playing blitz or bullet, you can make an illegal move and your opponent can claim a victory. So if you're playing a blitz game, 5 minutes each, let's say, in real life, in a real tournament, blitz tournament, and black plays queen b4 check, white can play queen takes king or say illegal move and white wins. In slow chess, we don't do that. Okay, in slow chess, what should happen is white says, excuse me, you can't play queen b4, your king's in check. And black says, oh, I beg your pardon, especially if black is Yasser. And a normal person would play g6 or king d8. However, if after the illegal move, you call the director and say, director, his king's in check and he didn't get out of check and whatever. The director may inform you that you guys are playing touch move. And touch move rule, we're going to talk about next position. This is position 1, illegal moves. And if the director may make you, and in fact you can't argue, might make you play queen g6. That's not a good move. And you're like, why do I have to play queen g6? What's going on? Can't make me make a move. It's touch move when you play in a tournament. It's not touch move when you play online. When you play online, you can touch everything. When you play in a tournament, you have to play touch move. Touch a piece, you have to move it if you legally can. Well, you touched your queen, you put it on b4, and you can't play queen b4, but you can play queen g6. And you touched your queen, so you're required to play queen g6. Okay? And if you make an illegal move in a tournament game over the board, and your opponent says that's illegal, but you still have to move that piece if you can. Now, let's say black plays a5, okay? And white says, you can't play a5, you're in check. The pawn goes back to a7. The pawn has no legal move. You can't move the pawn. And there's no penalty. Black just has to make a legal move. Either g6, queen g6, or king d8. But if you can legally move, okay, another example, which doesn't hurt you at all, I'm just showing you as an example, is black plays g5. I can't play g5 because the computer won't let me. And you're like, you can't play g5, your king's in check. Well, you have to play g6. You touched your g-pawn. So if you make an illegal move in a slow game, a couple things can happen. Nobody notices, and you guys are playing illegal moves, and all hell breaks loose. Both kings are in check. Both sides are checkmated. Or the guy says that's illegal, and now if you can make a legal move, not an illegal move, legal, with the piece that you touched, you have to. Okay, and I want to show you another example, which is funny. I made this up while I was preparing the lecture in my head. I have all these ideas in my head. I didn't write them down, but this one I made up. Okay, you're playing in online, and you want to play queen takes pawn. In fact, let's play knight c3, so queen takes pawn is less stupid. Okay, if you play queen takes pawn online, the engine, the computer, the server is going to put your queen back on d8 because you can't play queen takes pawn. You can't make illegal moves online. If you play queen takes pawn in a real game, and let's say you touch your queen first, your opponent might not notice it's illegal, and the game goes on. Nobody notices that was illegal. But that could happen. Or, more likely, your opponent says, that's illegal. What are you doing? Now, if you touched your queen first, you have to play queen d7 or queen d6. Touch move. If you touch the pawn first, you take the pawn, pick it up, and put your queen there. Well, you touch the pawn first. Touch move. You touch the pawn, then your queen. So you have to take the pawn with your knight because you touched the pawn first. So after queen takes pawn, a lot of stuff can happen. It's possible nobody notices. It's possible you touched your queen first. It's possible you picked up the pawn first. And that move is illegal. And that's why when you play in an over-the-board tournament, I tell all my students, if anything happens at all, call the director, call the arbiter. Don't ever make a ruling with you and your opponent. Don't ever do that. Okay, call the arbiter, tell the arbiter what happened, then you'll learn whatever the rule is. I mean, because you guys don't know. If you're making illegal moves, you can't be making rulings because you're probably not good enough. I was at a backgammon tournament and there was an illegal position, which I'd never seen before, and they didn't know when it happened. I'd never seen an illegal position in a backgammon game, but the director said they'd seen it before. They're a backgammon director, so. But I'd never even heard of it. But then I saw what happened and I was like, ah. But if people can't play backgammon legally and they're putting their men on top of other men and leaving them there, you can't have them make rulings. You got to have the director make the ruling. Because, if you're not good enough to play legally, you're probably not good enough to know what the rules are in those situations and make rulings. Okay. Another thing I want to talk about is touch move, which we talked about a little bit with the illegal moves. You play touch move when you play in tournaments, which is very hard for some people. They're touching everything. And a lot of coaches tell the little kids they teach to sit on their hands because they're always touching everything. Okay. And of course, if you don't play touch move and your opponent doesn't say anything, then, it's a free-for-all. Touch every piece, move one of them, your opponent makes a move, doesn't care. That happens too. But touch move, touch a piece, you have to move it. If you legally can. If you can't legally move the piece, then you don't have to do anything. Then you're free to, whatever you want to do. Okay. So in this position, if black touches his D pawn or touches the C pawn, doesn't matter which one he touches first, he's got to take the C pawn because of the touch move rule. So you touch something, you have to take it or move it. And some people call it the touch take rule. No such name, that's just made up. And if in this position, white touches his rook and goes to C3, and you're like, what's happening? The reason white played rook C3 is white meant to play knight C3, but made a mistake. Okay, over the board, on the internet, I can't do it. Online, I can't do it. It puts it back. Over the board, your opponent should say that's illegal, and then you can play any move you want. You can play H3, G3, because you can't move your rook. You'll probably play knight C3, because that's what you meant to do. Okay, so touch move. If you touch a piece, you have to move it. That's very hard for people who play online only, because online, you can touch everything. Online, you can start moving stuff. I can go here, as long as my hand is still on the mouse, I'm like, nah, I think I'll go here. And my hand is still on the mouse, and I'm like, nah, I think I'll go here. I can do whatever I want online. I can touch everything. I can draw arrows on the board. Okay. In a tournament, if you touch a piece, you have to move it. And this is part of the touch move rule. When you play in a tournament, one of the big differences between playing over the board as to playing online, which I haven't discussed yet because I was saving it for touch move, is there's a chess clock. There's a chess timer. And you have to hit that timer. And a lot of beginning players who are playing in their first online over the board tournament forget to hit the clock. You don't do that. It's a habit. Move, hit the clock. Move, hit the clock. If you don't hit the clock, your clock is running, and then you might lose on time. The touch move rule says when you let go of the piece, that's your move, if it's legal. If I play E4 and I go to hit the clock, and I'm like, nah, I don't want to play E4. If I let go of my E pawn, I'm done. I have to hit the clock. I can't put my pawn back and play E3. If my hand is still on the pawn and I haven't let go of it, I could play E3. Okay, and a lot of people who play for fun, who are playing on the streets, they play clock move, okay, which is not a rule. This is just like street chess. If you're seeing some guys playing on the street, they're probably not playing touch move. Probably not. And that's something you discuss if you decide to go to Washington Square Park and play the Hustlers. You have to discuss with them, are we playing touch move? And usually they're not. And they play clock move. So after E4, if they haven't hit the clock yet, they can take their move back and play knight F3. They don't play touch move on the streets. Okay. if you're playing in a tournament over the board, you're playing touch move. If you touch a piece, you have to move it. If you let go of the piece, that's your move. You can't take it back. And you have to remember to hit the clock. And your opponent sometimes will remind you, if you're a new player, sometimes they won't. And that's one of the biggest differences over the board chess versus online chess. I saved it till the end of the lecture. Hitting the clock. And there was a game played between Karpov and Kasparov in the World Championship match, and Kasparov forgot to hit his clock. And he had 4 minutes left, and when he had 1 minute left, he noticed and hit his clock. Man, the truth hurts. And he lost that game. So you got to hit your clock when you're playing over the board. When you're playing online, everything is done automatically for you. Okay, and the third thing I want to talk about, the first position was illegal moves. The second was touch move. And this is promotion. When you promote on the internet, online, there's two possibilities. The most common possibility is you have your system set to auto queen. So when your pawn gets to the back row, bam, it becomes a queen. I don't do that. I underpromote a lot because I'm having fun. I get a lot of underpromotions. So I don't have it set like that. I have it where I choose what piece it is. Chess base I have set to auto promote. So it made a queen. In this position, if this was an actual chess lecture, this would be a puzzle. The answer is to take the knight and make a knight, which is check. That's actually the best move. And that's in some, I've given lectures where I've shown this exact position and I've explained why. You take and make a knight. It's Albin counter gambit trap. It's very well known. If you're playing in real life, you got to replace that piece. If you're playing on the internet, bam, the computer does it for you. Or you choose which one. It gives you a choice. If you're playing in the real life, and that's why a lot of chess sets have extra queens. In case you make another queen, there's another one for you. And sometimes you got to go around the room and look for extra pieces that have been captured and borrow a piece from somebody if you're under promoting, which is very unusual, or you need an extra queen. At our chess club in suburban Atlanta, when we owned it, we had extra queens for both sides at every board. Every set had that. So if somebody wanted to promote to a queen, they didn't have to walk around the room looking for a queen. It's right there. You can't just leave it as a pawn there. You got to, promote. You got to put whatever piece you want there. So promotion's different. You got to replace the piece, usually a queen, when you promote in a real game. When you promote online, it does it for you. And that's about all the differences in regular chess, in real life, and internet chess. The two biggest things I would take out of this lecture, just from people I know, is, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot one last thing, and that's keeping notation. If you're playing in a slow tournament, you have to write your moves down. That's very hard for some people. So the three hardest things for people who are going from internet to over the board chess is keeping notation, writing the moves down on a score sheet. There used to be a scorebook here, which I could show you, but it's not here. So you're supposed to write your moves down. And on the internet, they do that for you. You can look at the game later. They have it all written down. You have to hit the clock. That's the big one. Hitting the clock, people forget to do it when they're first playing in a tournament. And you could lose on time if you're not hitting your clock. And the pieces being 3D instead of 2D confuses some people. They're different shapes. There's different chess sets. Those are the three big things when you play in a real tournament compared to playing online. Keeping notation, the clock, hitting the timer, and getting used to the pieces, the way they look, the way they feel, where they are, which piece is which. And once you master that, you should be okay. I want to thank our sponsor, Michael H. If you'd like to sponsor a lecture, contact my wife, Karen. Her details are in the description of how to contact her, and we can talk about any lecture that you are interested in. It could be any topic as long as we approve it. And we approve 90-95% of topics. Some of them are too esoteric. This one was close, but we did a 45-minute lecture on the difference between over-the-board chess and online chess. And hopefully, if you're somebody who wants to play over the board, you do that now. It's a lot more fun. There's people there. You get to interact with other people, get to see other people. So it's fun. And occasionally they have prizes. It's hard to win prizes online because everybody's cheating. And there's less cheating over the board. So that's one of the benefits. Okay, thanks for watching, everybody. I'm Grandmaster Ben Finegold. I hope I didn't make too many funny faces. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.